So the good thing is that you can follow this tutorial without having any prerequisite knowledge of Python or programming. So this is tutorial 5, so there's been tutorial 1 to 4, but you can actually follow without having knowledge of previous ones. But it's better you actually follow from tutorial 1 till now. Alright, so let's go ahead to get started. So we are going to apply some of the things we already know. If I say something like a is equal to 3, what it means is that Python declares this variable as an integer and assigns it a value of 3. But let's see what happens when we say a is equal to input and say please enter number. So what happens at this time? The user enters a. Now a is not guaranteed to be an integer. At this point, a, I'll tell you what a is. A is a character. So at this point, you can't use a to solve anything, right? Good. So I'm going to go ahead to run this code and let's see what happens. So it says, please enter a number. So I could easily enter 3. But even at this, is also still not a number, but a character. So to show you that it's actually a character, not a number, if I say print a times a, so let's see what happens, and from there we understand how to solve it. So if I enter 5, so it gives us an error, right? So we're gonna use if statement to check what the user is entering. We are going to use if statement to check what the user is typing. If is a number, then we can use it. If not, we can now display an error message. Before I continue, I'd like to remind you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button below this video. If you click on the subscribe button, you subscribe and you get notified when I make new lessons. Alright, so let's go ahead to get started. So let's start from here. If a user enters a number, if you want to convert this to a number before you can use it to do calculations, you need to use something called a function, a conversion function. So you say a is equal to int a, right? So at this point, if we now say print a times a, we'll get a result. So let's see how it goes. So I'm going to run it. I'm going to shift this way. I'm going to enter 5. So it prints out 25. The reason is because we converted this a into an integer. Now let's try to confuse the program by entering something that is not convertible to a number. So let's enter, let's say t. So you find out that it also fails. So let's now use an if statement, right? Good. So now if a is something like t or z or s or mn or something that is not a number, is going to fail. You cannot convert it to an integer. So I'm going to use an if statement in this place to check if it's an integer. So what I'm going to do is to write, let me make a space, is to write an if statement that says if a dot is digit, right? If a dot is digit, then I can continue to do what I want to do. So at this point, if a dot is digit, then I convert it to number, to integer, and then I print it out. Else, I'm going to tell the user, please enter a digit or a number. Else, I'm going to say input. I'm going to just say not a number, right? Good. So let's go ahead to run it. Let's see how it goes. So if I run this code now, if I enter a to be h, you see it tells us not a number. I'm going to run it again and I'm going to enter 5. Well, let's enter 45, and if I run it, it calculates well. So the reason is that I use an if statement in this place to check if the number is a digit before I could use it. So it's very good that when a user enters input on the keyboard, you want to check what that input is before you use it to make calculation. Alright, so let's look at else if. So let's say we are expecting what the user entered to be between 1 and 10. Enter a number between from 1 to 10. So first we are going to check if it's a digit, and then inside this if statement we are also going to check if the number is between 1 and 10. So I'm going to use a nested if statement. So I'm going to say if okay, so give a second. So at this point I'm going to if a is greater than 0 and a is less than 10. Right? Good. So at this point, to check if a is greater than 0 and a is less than 10. So I'm going to indent this. So this is how nested if statement works. So at this point, this else statement should also be nested. Right? So it's going to check in this place if it's a digit, convert it to an integer. If it is between 0 and 10, then we print a times a. This else statement corresponds to this. So what we are going to say here, number should be 0 to 10. Alright? Alright. So in the other if statement, I'm going to come out and say else. So at this point, the message we are going to print out in the user is number, or can just say not a digit. Right? So if it passes through the first one, it is a digit, and then you can now check if it is between 1 and 10 or 0 and 10. But if it fails this one, then it's going to come here to check that it to say else print not a digit. So let's quickly run it before we now do the grade sheet. So I'm going to run it. I'm going to enter let's say 56. So it calculates, meaning that we have some problem somewhere. So it says if it's digit, then okay, so a is greater than 0 and a, okay, you can see I'm having a is greater than 10 as well. So it's going to be a greater than 0 and a is less than 10. So let's go ahead to run it. So if I enter 56, so you say number should be 1 to 10. And again, if I enter, let's say J, it will say not a digit. So that is how nested if statements work. So I hope you can wrap your head around it. Let's quickly do this project of creating a grade sheet in Python. So grade sheets have the following criteria: 70 to 100 is A, 69 to 60 to 69 B, and so on. So the first thing we are going to say is A is equal to input. Okay, is equal to input. Enter a number. So the first thing we are going to do is say A is equal to int A. So this time we convert it to an integer, or we can convert it to a float, because it can also be a decimal point, because we are talking about a grade. So we now use the if statement. If A is greater than, right, A is greater than or equal to 70, and A is less than or equal to 100. So what are we going to do? So we're going to print out A. So the next line is going to say else. This time we are going to use ELIF. So else if in Python you call it ELIF. So this time A should be what? Should be between 60 and 69. A should be greater than 69. 69, right? A from 60 to 69. So A is greater than or equal to 69. So print, this time we have what? B, right? So we continue ELIF again. A is less than this should be A should be greater than or equal to it should be A should be greater than or equal to 70 and A less than or equal to 100. A should be greater than or equal to 69. Remember that if it passes through this first if statement, it means that A is between A false less than 70, right? Okay, so this time if A is greater than or equal to 59, right? A is greater than or equal to, so this should be 60. So this time is 50. So you can actually write it out and say and A is less than or equal to 69. So you can actually write it out this way, but it's all the same because in this place it's already checked that A is less than or equal to 70, right? A is less than 70 at this point because it's not greater than 70 or equal to 70. It means that it is less than 70. So the next thing is if A is greater than or equal to 50, print C. So I'm going to stop here and run this program, and then I allow you to complete the other one. If you have challenges, leave in the comment box for me so that I'll see the problems you have. So if I run this program now, and let's say I enter 50, so it prints out C, as you can see. So let's try to enter 778. It prints out A. So that is how to build a spreadsheet. And by now we've covered if statement in Python. So you now understand if statement, ELIF statement, nested nested statement, single line if. Okay, that we have not covered. Single line if it simply says something like, it's just to put an if statement in a single line. If A, let's say, is greater than 100. So at this point, you can just print should be less than 100. So this is a typical single line if statement that works very well. So let's use an ELIF statement, and then so at this point I'm going to run this code and I'm going to enter 101. So it's going to, okay, so we have an error, so I'm going to take it out. So meanwhile, this is a single line if statement, and that is how it works. So you can actually debug this problem to know why 101 is giving us C, right? Good. So because here, every other thing that is not from 70 to 100 is not greater than 50. Every other thing is considered to be considered in this else statement, right? So if I want to control this, I can just say and A should be A is greater than or equal to 50 and A is less than or equal to 59. So at this point, it's not going to give us this error. So if I enter 101, so it says should be less than 100. So this single line if statement have captured this problem of having a number above 100. So I'd like you to spend some time to get around this, play around it, try to modify this spreadsheet and see that you understand it. And I'd like to thank you for viewing and also remind you to subscribe to my channel.